Okay guys, welcome to the follow-up DVD to the Violence Intent Training DVD. On this one we're going to look at some of the basic essential components of the Violence Intent Training drill, and we're going to look at one or two more of the principles as well, the kinds of things I want you to try and remember to do when you're doing the drill that will make a difference. One of the things that I didn't really emphasise enough on the last DVD, and it probably does bear repeating and does bear a little bit of emphasis, is when you're doing the drill, your whole approach to your training should be that when it happens for you in the street, you've actually got to use your imagination, boys and girls. You've actually got to think, how am I going to respond when it really goes off? Now, I don't want to spoon feed you too much. I've already given you loads of stuff, but I think what can tend to happen is if you go into a spoon-fed mindset, you just start asking for more and more and more because your mindset's gone passive. You need to get into an active mindset again and start thinking about what you're going to do to make this stuff work when it goes off in the real world. And that's down to your mentality, it's down to your focus. So your violence intent training should be about bringing as much of yourself, of your physical being, of your mental being, of your presence into one point in space and time. That one moment in life, if it happens, it's only ever going to last 5 to 6 seconds. Usually, if you're very unlucky, it will go on for longer. But relatively speaking, it's going to be a very intense, very short-lived experience. So you've got to bring a lot of intensity to it. That's what this violence intent training is all about. Okay, that being said, we'll get into the first drill. Thank you. Okay, so for this tutorial, what we wanted to do is take everything back to basics. There are three basic formats to doing this drill. Remember, it's all about getting used to what will actually happen in the street. It's meant to be as non-symbolic as possible. The first way of doing the drill is the way that I showed you, which is based on that principle of asymmetry, where I simply, at the most basic level of this most basic drill, use my partner like a bob dummy. So if you just face me, there's a limited amount of usage to this, but it's important that you, subjectively, not just sat there on your arse on the couch watching me, but when you do this, if you don't do this, it has zero use whatsoever, but when you actually do this, that your neurology, your mind, your brain, your body gets used to hitting a human being. However these strikes or whatever movements you're doing, we're not going to get into that mental masturbation today, you've got to get used to hitting another person. It's like that Bruce Lee phrase, to paraphrase him, you can't learn anything about swimming by sitting by the side of the pool and discussing, the physics of flotation and analysing to death the specifics of a particular swimming technique. You've got to actually get in the water and swim. The problem for us is we can't just knock the fuck out of each other, because this would be a very short DVD, and then we'd probably both then not be able to train for a couple of weeks and all the rest of it. You can't just eye gouge each other, you can't just hit each other. The only real way to know how to fight is to actually fight, but we can't do that safely. So this is as close as we can get without damaging each other, aside from live drills with the pads on, and sparring and just hitting the pads, all of which have faults. This is not a perfect drill, it has fault, because there's so little compliance here. But this is the most basic level of the drill. So whatever it is you're working, when your partner just stands there like a bob dummy, and you're just hitting them, this is the most basic level of the drill. When I said to you, use the principle of asymmetry in the first DVD, that meant that what I wanted you to do is to hit him more than he's hitting you, and hit him at a greater level of emotional and psychological intensity than he's hitting you, and hit him before he hits you, which is a great little thing to have in principle, is hit him sooner, hit him harder, hit him with more intensity and more ferocity. Fairly good strategy, that, for winning. And all that means is, well, I've given you this arbitrary figure, the 5, and I've said if you're going to do a number of techniques, start with 5 techniques. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is you happen to be working. I'll just stick with punches for this example. And you just keep doing it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to mix it up and you want it to be more combative, you can come off a fence. You can right hook, your right hook not work, right elbow, headbutt, eye gouge, and 5. And your partner's just standing there like a bob dummy letting you do it. You rep that out 10 times. He then does it 10 times. Very, very simple. That's drill number 1. Couldn't be easier than that. To break that down so it's incredibly simple, All you're going to do is you're going to get with your partner and hit them 5 times with your right hand. So you can grab them and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, I wasn't hitting Reggie there, which is what you should be doing for this drill. I should be showing you, this is exactly what I want you to do. Get in front of your partner. Don't stand square on. Don't stand with your back straight like this. Stand as you would in a fight. Separate your feet. Have your hips pointing in, your shoulders pointing in, and lean forward. You should be leaning forward, and you should be driving off your back foot. You're going to grab with one hand. This is the most basic level of the drill. And you're going to drive this right cross specifically into his jaw. And you're going to do it 5 times, and you're going to use aggression to do it. You're going to use aggression to do it, and you're going to use aggression to do it. Repetition, repetition, repetition. The idea here being that when it's a habit, and you do it over and over and over, that when you're shocked, when you're frightened, when you're drunk, when you're full of food or whatever, because it's a natural instinct, so that your natural instinct to respond to violence isn't meh. Your natural instinct to respond to violence is, oh fuck, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You punch the fuck out of his jaw. Remember, that's our focus. That's how you download into your neurology. Alter the state, repetition. Get into that aggressive state. Fuck you, exactly as I showed you on the last DVD, and keep going. It's the most basic level of the drill. Second drill that I'm going to show you, I want to work through these quite quickly, is from Tony Blauer. It's the Range Rover drill. And I spoke to Tony last year and interviewed him. I think he said he doesn't use this drill that much anymore because he doesn't really like it. But based on my experience, my beliefs and my reality tunnel, I think it's a fucking awesome drill. The first time I ever saw a shot placement drill was Gary Sandlin, my kickboxing instructor, and it was a revelation to me to stand there and go, okay, front kick, jab, right cross. Front kick, jab, right cross. Not on a bag, but, excuse me, on a human being. That was a revelation to me at that time as a young martial artist who'd only ever done Aikido, Ninjutsu, Jiu-Jitsu and Karate. I thought that was amazing. Tony Blauer's Range Rover drill, and I'm not a Tony Blauer instructor, and I'm sure he could explain this to you much better than I can, is your partner dictates what you're going to do next. So I'm going to dictate to Reg how he's going to hit me, but he's only going to do it at this slow pace as I've been showing you. So he's hit me exactly as he would, exactly the same technique, exactly the same tool to the same target, but with no speed. That's the only thing that's different. So in drill number 2, this is drill number 2 now, Tony Blauer's Range Rover drill, I actually say punch, punches, kick, headbutt, choke. Okay, so you make it so that your partner has to respond to what you're saying. Knee, punch, elbow, kick, kick, good, kick, good, stop. Right, so you can be a bit of a dick with this. If you've got a student who's more advanced, you can say to them things like, okay, go from headbutt to bite to kick, which is a pain in the arse thing to do. You end up having to do this. Grade it to your partner. So I know Reg's got a lot of experience, so I can be like, do a headbutt, then do a kick, then do a headbutt, then do a kick. So you're going from your shortest range, bouncing back out to your longest range, and then back in again. It's not about what you will actually do on the street. It's about confusing the neurology and going, okay, I'm in here for a clinch. Oh shit, I've got a kick. Right, fuck, how do I... And making yourself under a little bit of pressure. We're just adding a tiny fraction of a pressure. We add that little bit of pressure, make your brain think, make your body move, so that when you're in a fight for real, the idea of headbutting somebody, if he turns away and if you respond to that headbutt and cover up, the idea of headbutting somebody, him covering, and then me doing that, is a piece of piss. Because I've done it 1,000 times in training. You respond to the environment and you improvise. Very, very simple thing to do. So we'll just go through that again. I stand still like a bob dummy, and I say kick, punch, 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 knee, knee, choke. Nice. Okay, so there's an awkward position there, and Reza just caught me on the side with a nice little choke. It makes you opportunistic. You know, because when you're here with somebody and they go choke, you've got to be like, oh fuck, where's the fucking, you know, where's the choke from here? It makes you opportunistic, which is good. And it forces you to come in and out of range. You must learn to respond to quick changes in your environment. Don't become that martial artist. Don't become that guy at the gym who demands everything to be set up exactly the way he wants it before he'll train. You must respond to the environment. My prime example of this is a guy that I was holding Thai pads for. He was a competitive Thai boxer, and he was doing jab cross. So if you just jab cross into my hands, Reggie knows what I'm going to say here. He was making me do this jab cross again, bang the pad into his hands, which I fucking hate. Big Thai pads. He wanted me to do that into his hands. His reasoning was, please bring the pad to my hands. I said, why? He said, because it makes me faster. I'm like, dude, can't you tell the difference between the environment changing to suit your needs and you changing to suit the needs of the environment? We must respond to the environment, because if we haven't got a choice, it's a fight. Nobody chooses to fight. Nobody who buys these DVDs and watches these tutorials is there by choice. We're there because we're being forced to. So all of this stuff that we're doing, it might go off on a bus. You know, imagine this on the top deck of a bus in London after you've had a few drinks. Where you're going to be there going, oh, okay, fucking right cross. You're all over the place. Some bird's grabbing you going, get off him, stop it, you boyfriends. You're like, fuck off, bitch. You know, there's a lot of environmental factors there. So to make it too sterile and to get too used to everything being our way is no good. A nice way of introducing this pressure is the Tony Blair Range Rover drill. That's number 2. Number 3 takes a bit more getting used to and looks weird. So what I'm going to show you now looks weird, but it's well worth it. And it's actually just to bring an element of chi sao to the drill. And you say, oh fucking hell, Chinese martial arts, I don't want to do that, it's a pain in the ass. This is another element of combative pressure that you can combine with the shot placement drill that works fucking brilliantly. And I'll give you an example in a second. So all I'm going to ask you to do, to keep this really basic, is stand facing each other, have a little bit of a combative stance, which means your more powerful side is held back, left foot in front of right, hips facing your partner, shoulders facing your partner, and then just touch wrists. Now, I, as the leader of the drill, I'm going to move my hands and I'm going to ask Reg to move his wrists with me. Real fucking simple, really easy, tiny little bit of combative pressure. You can do this, right? Anybody can do this. Now I'm going to say, don't let me touch your chest. And this is all I'm going to do, is give him a little bit of combative pressure and keep trying to touch his chest. And remember, this is the most basic level of the drill. So for instructors, this is something that's great to do with your students, getting to do it with each other. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, as I did with the Range Rover drill, punch. And when I say punch, because this is a basic drill, safety first, guys, and everything we do is to generate destruction, you can get injuries practicing this shit like that. It's so easy. If you've never trained this way, don't do it in a class. Don't just turn up to your class and go, oh, I watched the Grannon DVD and we're going to do this tonight. And we're all going to fucking cheese out and headbutt each other. Don't do that. The other thing that I should have mentioned on the last DVD that I didn't, this is to instructors now, when you're getting people to up their level of adrenaline and to up their level of aggression, you need to up your level of control of your students, because they'll start hurting each other by mistake. If I'm saying to my brain, get aggressive, get angry and hit the target and headbutt, there's a much, much better chance of me actually just going 2 inches further and actually clonking this guy in the face. Now, is it going to kill him? No, but who wants to train? And you know, even if it's that hard, a head into your cheek, into your jaw, swells up, it's not nice. So you've got to be really, really careful with this stuff. Same with the eye gouging and the fucking kicking into the knees. All of that can go wrong in a second. You know, we hope that in training, when I get eye gouged, that I screw my eye up and close it. But every once in a while, I won't see it coming and I won't. You know, that's how the MMA fights get stopped when people accidentally eye gouge. It's not that the eye gouge is such a ferocious technique. It's that as they've pulled back with their hands, his eye hasn't registered and closed. Now there's a difference between me touching a closed eye, if you close your eye, that's a different animal and a different target now than if it's open and I touch it. Just leave it open. It's really hard to fucking leave your eye open. But if the front of your eyeball gets touched by anything, by a leaf, you go into shock. Not shock, but you get overwhelmed. If a fly goes into your eye, and having your closed eye pressed is a completely different experience. So be very, very careful with this stuff. So as I'm doing Chi Sao, as I'm the person leading the drill, all I'm going to do is just roll and roll. I'm going to try and touch his chest, and he needs to stay nice and relaxed, and I stay nice and relaxed, and make sure your students stay nice and relaxed as you do this. I'm going to keep trying to touch his chest. It gives him a little bit of combative pressure, and then I say punch. And when I say punch, I stop. I stop moving my arms, okay? This is a very, very basic drill for your students, for your beginner students. And then I'm going to stop and I'm going to say kick. And he kicks. And we roll, 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 headbutt. Bang. Now, the other thing it gets his body used to doing is just put your hands out, is to clearing the limbs before headbutting. I don't have to tell him to do that. You won't have to tell your students to do that. Their bodies will know. It's a really good way of getting the body to wake up naturally. To, instead of going, oh, now we're going to, is that Pak Sao? Instead of saying, right, now we're going to learn a Pak Sao, or fucking that, what's Lop Sao?
I have no idea.
Oh fuck, I can't remember. I think Lop Sao is when you go over the top. Instead of making that a technique, Pak and then Lop, and going, right, we have to study that, don't fucking do that. Clear the limb and smash the face. If you say to the neurology, smash the face, your body will move that stuff because it's in my way. If I say to you, pass me the tin of beans, you don't go, tin of beans, ha, ha, ha. You just go, tin of beans, bang, smash them in the face. So think about weapon to target and let this natural flowing Chi Sao drill be the means by which the body wakes up and your beginner students just suddenly go, oh wow, amazing, I've done it with loads of personal students, and they'll start throwing out proper martial arts techniques. Their bodies will throw out proper martial arts techniques just as they find solutions in the moment on their own. On another earlier DVD, you'll actually see the woman I'm training with rolls the arm like a bong sao or like a silat movement, and then palm strikes over the top. Now, if I taught her to do that, it would take an hour at least to learn to roll with the elbow. Because I'm stronger than her body worked out. Even though he's stronger and heavier than me, if I roll with my elbow, I can clear that arm and strike. So this Chi Sao drill, I fucking love it. I think it's a brilliant thing to do with beginners. So you just roll, punch, bang, good, and headbutt, this, and kick. That's it. Okay. Now there's another element to this that I want to add. 2 combative principles we're going to look at today. Those are the 3 basic drills that I want you to work with. The techniques that you feed into them should be simple. You should be focusing on punching, headbutts, low-lying kicks and knees. I'm not saying anything revolutionary here, and chokes, and head controls. And in fact, what I wanted to do was show you 3 drills and two techniques and then a couple of principles in this DVD. I know I'm trying to pack a lot into the DVDs, that's what I like to do. If I'm going to show you a technique, if I can show you a technique, this is the one I would show you. And this is something that came up recently. I did another stint of door work in the UK, and this came up time and again, and I would like you to practice this. On a clip recently, I saw myself talking about a movement called the shock, and I said it's a Western wrestling move. And then I went and looked it up online, and I saw YouTube clips, and they were saying that this is a shock. Shoving the head out of the way is a shock. And there were other people on other YouTube channels who were saying, no, this is a shock. And as they're wrestling around, they thrust across and they wipe the head. They don't step out like I just did because they're wrestling. They wipe the head and they're going, that's the shock. And I was like, shit, I've actually put in the 6 seconds of extreme violence a technique and called it Western wrestling, and I'm talking bullshit. Then I kept looking, and I did eventually find a wrestling technique where they get the head down, and I'm going to exaggerate this, and they pull the head and shift back with the hips. I know that looks silly, but you do, I'm not going to do it to Reg because it's very uncomfortable. You do this, and you shuffle back as you do it. So I was like, well, how can they all be the shock? So very, very quickly, when I looked it up, it said different areas of America have evolved different names for different movements, and it's down to the history of the area. But a shock is the same etymological root as to shock and jive, and it comes from, shocking is actually a farming term, but shock and jive is what people would speak in front of police to confuse them. So it's actually any movement that's kind of a trick. Anything that tricks your opponent effectively is a shock. In Western wrestling, it seems, I'm no fucking expert, to be anything where the head is controlled or moved. I was taught it wherever, my instructor who showed me it was an American guy. This is back when I was like 20 years old in Birmingham, and he showed it me as that. Now I remembered that because I was a young martial artist looking for shit that worked, and when you have somebody actually get hold of your head, pull it towards you, it's fucking horrible. It's really overwhelming. So I only went to 3 wrestling classes, but I remember that. And the reason why I remembered it is because it's the same effect as when you first get put in a tie clinch. You're like, oh my fucking god, what's happened to me? I can't hear anything, I can't see anything, fuck. Or somebody does a head control. You're like, fucking hell. Your whole body gets overwhelmed. Now, I don't think I remember anything from the wrestling class other than that, and the fact that if you go for a takedown and smash your knee into the floor, it fucking hurts. That's all and it was knackering. That's all I remember. But the shock, what I was calling a shock, that's only a shock in certain areas. But that's why it's there. Now that movement is an awesome movement, but anything, the technique I actually want to talk about is anything where the head is down, where you learn to pull the head down and get the person into this position. Doing door work over the last few months, I've found this so fucking useful, guys. So it's safe if you're using it for control. It gives you so much control if you're using it for control and restraint. That's how I ended up taking most people out if they're being naughty. If they're being very naughty and kicking off and throwing their arms around and all the rest of it. And if I was really, really struggling, because you can basically just go, fuck's sake, come here. Now there's no choke, I'm not choking him here, but you just pull and then just walk backwards. And what happened a couple of times is as I was walking backwards, colleagues come over, you get 2 other people, arms up his back. So I've got his head, he's got 1 person on each arm. He's not going to do me any harm, he's not going to do himself any harm, and out he goes. How's that relevant combatively? You've got so much control over the guy. So there's 2 things I want you to learn, which is to pull the head down using a tie grip, which is the old swan neck grip. Practice this, please. If you're going to say, what technique should I be practicing? Please learn to put people into this position. It's combatively very fucking useful. Here and down and pull. You know, and you should be doing your weight training, your pull-ups and your bicep curls and all the rest of it, so that your back and your biceps are strong enough so that when you get hold of somebody and pull them down, the head goes down. As soon as that person gets to this position, it's a very, very weak position to be in. As you're sat on your arse watching this on the couch, you might think, well, I could go for his groin. Between me going for his groin and him ramming my fucking head into the floor or smashing me with this knee, you know, he's going to win. He's got the superior position. You know, I can start messing around with his dinkle if I want to, but he'll be like, fuck you, smash down into the floor. So it's a very, very powerful technique. The other way that I want you to get down to that position, apart from using this half a tie clinch, hook and pull to get down to here, this is like I guess this is like a sloppy tie clinch, where I'm actually really, instead of coming up high here, I'm actually being like, look at your knees, look at your fucking knees, and I'm forcing him to look down at the floor and at his knees. That's what I tell myself in my head. I say, make him look at his own knees. So you pull down and you actually start to fold him back towards himself. The second way is to actually hook the head as though you're going for a guillotine, which is done like this. One nice flowing movement here on the left side. It's from my outer forearm, rolls his head down and in to this position here. So the first one is here and pull down, and the second one, you just do this movement with your arm to here. That's it, just to here. All you do in your partner is a nice rolling movement down and into here. Now, if you do it too gently and start just stiffen up, and you start messing with each other like this and going, will that work? I don't know if that'll work. Then you're going to have problems. You've got to be like, I'm taking his head. If he stiffens, stiffen up, then you move. If he won't move, he can't stop you from coming over the, from coming over the top and moving. Did I catch you there? Oh. With these movements, because you're grabbing the head, you can get incidental strikes into the sides, into the sides of the jaw. So as you come around and down in training, don't rip too hard. Obviously, if you wanted to be mean about it and you're both warmed up, you can go from here and start jumping in, fucking ripping it down. It's all about intensity, guys. You have to make these techniques work. I can't flow through the TV like some Japanese curse lady and possess you and make you do the techniques. You've got to make it work. You've got to make it happen. So you're here, you've got to have the intent, I'm taking your fucking head, look at your fucking knees. And then from there, you can work. I'm going to show you one more thing. I don't want to overwhelm you with too much stuff. Most of you will have seen this. If you haven't, it's very useful combatively. If you're in a fight, a simple guillotine here, well, if it's for control and restraint, you can actually say to the person, calm down, behave yourself, or, and if they won't stop, you can start to choke that, just tap as soon as it goes on. And all you're doing is taking the blade of your wrist and you're just applying pressure. I'm just here, tensing my back a little bit, squeezing that in, get that sunk in nice and deep, sink it in, and then just lean back. That's what you're doing. If it's a restraint scenario. If it's not, then you pulse it. You pulse up, you let go, go to another strike. You might even get a knockout off that from the pressure on the carotid and onto the vagus nerve, if you just pulse it up and in. If you want to be really, really nasty, I'll show you on the left side. It's here, round, down, and then just squeeze up and in until you get the tap. That's the choke. If you want to be really, really nasty and go for the carotid, you need to turn the chin slightly and then pull that way. And it's just a more intense way. Instead of targeting the front of the throat, you're then coming round to the carotid here. I'll show you that again. So one way is the guillotine, which is to just go straight in here. The other way is to turn his head slightly so that his the top edge of his head is now against my floating rib. And my forearm is going to come in here. And if you can't get the carotid, I can't right now because I'm not sunk in enough, but I can still get the neck crank by doing this. So the neck crank is, you're actually, you know, think about it. You want his head to go offline. This is online. This is a normal, natural position. This is not a natural fucking position. That's what I'm making him do. I'm making his head do this. So if you do the neck crank on me, just round and down and roll the head up. That's it. The neck crank is obviously a much more dangerous and much more severe technique to use than the actual guillotine choke itself. So that's the technique I just wanted to show you there. And that'll be it for this section. We'll come back in the next section. I'm going to go into the next level of the drill. Thank you. Okay, so we've covered 3 different ways of doing this drill. It's a very, very basic format. And we've covered an actual technique there as well, which I think is really, really useful. More important than fucking around with loads of different hand strikes, is to actually just start to look at controlling the whole body and really taking control of the person very, very aggressively. And a nice way of doing that is to take control of the head, pull it down, and then you're in a good, efficient position to move them around. Okay, this next section, what I want to talk to you about is movement. And we're going to look at 2 things. One is good movement and the other is committed movement. Good movement is this. If we do the 3rd drill where we have the cheese out. Okay, so as I'm moving, if you just call punch or kick or whatever.
Punch.
Right, and again.
Kick. Knee. Punch. Punch.
So what you need to learn how to do, guys, is to move and stretch yourself a little bit. You want to try and move confidently. You want to have good, what is called good movement. everybody at some point who's serious about this should film themselves moving. How you're moving is probably not how you think you're moving. Everybody's got phones now that can take video. Have somebody take a video clip of you doing these drills. One of the things that you'll see that's a very, very common fault in movement is people will try and be here. They'll try and do this. They'll bring their arms close to their body, and then they'll get nervous, and then the energy comes up and the shoulders come up, and because it's competitive, they start henpecking into the chest. Ha, I got you. Ha, I got you. It's fucking so annoying when people do that. It's basically the equivalent of like tapping somebody in the head with pads. Really, really irritating. Try and keep yourself and your students, if anything, go lower. Lower your stance. For some reason this has a calming effect. You lower your stance, slow down the movements, make the breath long and slow, and feel where the other person is. If people are really struggling with this high nervous energy shit, make them close their eyes. It's much easier than you think. Just to feel where the other person is. Nice low stance, nice flowing movements. You're kind of working with each other now. You might think, this is fucking esoteric, La. You're supposed to be smashing people up outside kebab shops. Attributes, gentlemen and ladies. You need to have the kinesthetic sense, the proprioception of where you are, and the capacity to flow from one movement to the next. Okay, stop there. So, what a lot of people do, because it's habitual, this is how they live their daily lives. They're either croned over here, heads down there, arms in. Usually what you see with some people who are very, very shy is the chest closes in on itself because they're protecting their internal organs. And a lot of their movements, the hands will either be near or covering the groin in their body language, or covering the throat, because they're frightened. Life frightens them. And it's a self-perpetuating cycle, because psychocybernetically, my body is now telling my mind to be frightened. Whereas if I put some bass in my voice, straighten my spine, stick my chest out, and have body movements that show that I'm more comfortable with my environment, I start to feel more confident. So when you're doing the Chi Sao, when you're doing the Range Rover drill, even when you're doing the asymmetric drill, if you go back to just being a bob dummy, I would not want to see you going and giggling and all that nervous energy that we talked about in the last DVD. Adopt that more karate sort of a mentality, which is much more serious, it's much more grave. This is a grave and serious circumstance for the other person, because you're about to put them in fucking hospital for 6 months. Set your stance a little bit. Your stance will control where your mind and emotions go. Sink your weight a little bit. Maybe straighten the spine, maybe put your chest out a little bit as appropriate, but remember you sort of move forward and move with confidence. If you're here, oh fuck, I hope this works. If I get into a fight, maybe it will, maybe it won't. That's my internal dialogue. You're wasting your time training. Remember what the internal dialogue should be. It's here. Fuck you, I'm knocking you out. I'm breaking your fucking jaw. You want to look, feel, move. Good movement with confidence. Don't be up here. Don't be here. You know, watch where your legs are. Toes pointing in and all that, trying to cover yourself up. Your body is reflecting your map of reality, your mental map of reality, and it's not healthy. So be aware of where you're... But I do this. What I will tend to do is, a very common thing for me is I get annoyed with people, with the world, whatever, I get angry, negative processes come in, I slump, and I'm here. I'll just be like, fuck, I can't be bothered, I'm knackered, I'm too tired, and I'll slump down. So this is my thing. You won't see me do this in training, because training is one place where I'm like, yeah, I get to fucking hit people, I'm always in a good mood when I'm training. So, but on my day-to-day, I have to remind myself, stretch your back, put your back backwards, stretch your spine backwards, stick your chest out a little bit, so you don't want to walk around like you fucking want to be steadhead. Look at me, I'm massive. But you do need to walk with confidence. You do need to walk as though you have a right to exist in the world. Because otherwise, what's self-protection for? Self-protection, in this context, is about asserting boundaries and saying, no, I'm not going to let you abuse me, I'm not going to let you rape me, I'm not going to let you rob me or take things from me. No. Now, how can I do that if I'm here? So that should be there in the drills. A nice, confident stance. Fuck you, I'm knocking you out, you cunt. How dare you put your fucking hands on me? That should be the attitude, and it should be there in the body. That's part one of movement. Part two This movement thing is commitment. Everybody wants to be here. Here, I chop you. I chop you. Fuck that. Big movement, commitment. I think this has come about in the last 10 years. A lot of fight scenes have developed this fetishized movement. A lot of the Bourne Supremacy films, which was like a Kali Silat Wing Chun thing, where people were fighting patter cake up here. And it was really, really fast cut. And you hear this boom, 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 and you think, wow, that's cool, I want to learn how to fight like that. And everything's fast cut, and it's basically fucking patter cake. His feet aren't moving, my feet aren't moving, but our hands are going a fucking 100 miles an hour. Only in the movies, kids. Only in the fucking movies. If I'm trying to hurt another man's trying to hurt me, we'll smash into each other within seconds. That's why you see that in cage fights all the time. One animal, another animal, want to hurt each other. What's the first thing that happens? Bang! They fucking make contact, and they make contact hard. They don't peck around each other out here going, heh. So that's another level of movement, which is commitment. If you're going to move, fucking move. Make a good, big, strong movement. If in training, you exaggerate the movements and make them, if every punch is like a Fedor punch, it's massive casting punch, the Russian-Ukrainian style of punching of Chanchin and Fedor, which is out here, huge. If I'm going to right hook him, in fact this is what you should do. I showed you to right hook here, exaggerate it more than that. Be Fedor, throw your head down to there when you're throwing the punch, here. Ah, fuck you! Your body knows. Your body knows what you want. It wants you to move. What do I do when I'm attacked? That's what the biological machine is asking you. Give it a very strong directive. Fucking move! My foot, my hips, my head. If you watch slow-mos of Fedor knocking people out, his fucking head is here. Stand by their hips. That is how much. It's like a Batman comic punch, the old Batman comics. From here, pow! And it says pow. That's Fedor. That's how I want you to move. Commitment. So commitment back in the day in traditional martial arts would be here, which is good in principle. Now I'm saying, move past him, bang, throw your head down here, fuck. Or pow, rather. Think pow. Move your whole body. Exaggerate. I think there's a cultural hypnosis that's led us to seek movements where we can deal with violence and be in control. That's what I call the Wong Fei Hung fantasy. I'm going to stand there in fucking robes with a ponytail going hup, 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 and then carry them away with my umbrella. You've got to be a Wong Fei Hung fan to understand that reference. So exaggerate it in the training hall. If I'm going to kick, big fucking movements here, so that my body is getting a very strong message to move and move with commitment. Last principle I'm going to give you is this. You can never be too clear in your instructions. This is one thing I've noticed about military training. Everything is very, very obvious. Everything is very, very over-drilled. So the smallest thing becomes drilled and drilled and drilled and made huge. And I thought, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Well, actually, it's because they want people to do skillful things under a huge amount of pressure. You can never be too detailed in your instructions. Nobody's ever going to hand a map back to you and go, there's too much fucking detail there. Or instructions back and go, there's too much detail in that instructions. But the other might be true. If you say, what do you want us to do in this war? Beat the enemy. How? Just beat him. I don't know. That's no fucking good. So what instructions are you going to give your neurology? You're going to give your body? Be clear. You want movement. Big movements. Committed movements. Somebody's grabbed me. What's a traditional defence to that? Anything. What do they teach? What's a Krav defence? Is that a Krav defence?
No, it's traditional defence.
Just traditional defence, okay. So if Reggie's going to do that, if he does it again, or does it with no commitment, just dabs at it, it's quite easy for me in training to go, haha, fuck you, use the muscles of my arms, you're not getting that. If he chooses to take that, like his life depends on it, and just rips through it, I'm fucking going, or my elbow will break. They become two completely different animals. They become two totally different things. Grab me. What's it you're doing? Here and here?
Yeah.
Like a wrist lock thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you dab at this and you go, oh, Red showed this, I think think, then it's not going to work. But anything done with commitment will work. If I fuck the defence off and do this, you know, with my whole body, that will work. You know, some massive movement. I used to do ninjutsu. I'm not proud of it, but I did. I never wore the black gi. I never wanted to roll around Birkenhead with fucking split toes and fucking... I used to turn up in tracksuits and they hated me for that. But one thing I learned from ninjutsu, my instructor is Bryn Morgan, who's actually a very good martial artist, full stop, ninjutsu, whatever. He always used to say to us, make the kami. He said, what about this? What do you do? What do you do? Make the kami. But he's grabbed me here and that he's too strong. Make the kami. And he'd say it in that accent exactly like that. And the kami of ninjutsu are fucking huge, daft looking movements. You know, they're here. Ichimonji no kami. No, that's Ichimonji no kami. Fuck it, doesn't matter. This is from the fire kata, right? I can't remember what it's called. That's Ichimonji no kami. There's one that's here. It doesn't matter so much. It's amazing how this works. However, say if somebody grabs you, right, and you just move, and you say, I don't give a fuck what he does, I'm going to make the kami. I'm going to make the movement. Let me pick another one. Right, okay, go to grab me. So I'm here, right? This is a kami from ninjutsu, right? I just punched him in the chest. I didn't mean to, but it happened to go there. I'm not saying do this, guys. I'm saying you can make ninjutsu kami if you want to. A kami is a stance, is a posture. Move. You must move. You can't like go, oh, pressure point here. You know, you've got to move your body. You've got to influence his body. Obviously, one of our principles is ergonomics. So you're going to move in a way that is more efficient, that gets more fucking damage done than by going, here. But the principle is the same. If you're not sure what to do, make the kami. Move. If you grab me again. So it doesn't matter. Things just fall into place. That's what they, in ninjutsu, they have, not a ninjutsu class, but this is interesting. They have 4 elements they work off. Earth, fire, water and wind. Wind is you're always moving, you're always trying to get out of the way. Earth is you keep still. If they come near you, just smash them back down. Fire, you burn through them. Water, you come out and then you crash back in. That's the principle. But then they had another element, the 5th element, called the void. The void element was, once you'd done your katas, and they did call them katas, but it meant a different thing than in karate, and you had gone into that mould, you could then go into the void, where you could do whatever you wanted. And it all got a bit weird there, because people would do attacks, and you'd be like tiny little fucking movements, and you start getting in. What they would then go off into was almost like no-touch knockouts, and really, really weird ways of handling conflict, which is a bit gay. But the principle is right. Move. Once you move, things have to change. If I choose, right, I've chosen a movement, a direction of movement. Give me an attack. Okay. I didn't know what attack he was going to go for, but I'd chosen that whatever it was, I was going to step right past him. If you choose that, it's a choice, it's something. Choose nothing and shit yourself, go again. Fuck. You know, this is no choice, but you've made a choice. By failing to make a choice, you've made a choice. So there's good movement, confident movement, committed movement. Commit. Make a big fucking movement and go for it. Okay guys, that's enough for this DVD. I hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, it's richie@streetfightsecrets.com and I'll speak to you soon. Hey up.